Hi, today I want to talk about some small ways that you can start developing your inner voice or your intuition and start listening to yourself better. These are really small things that you can do on a daily basis, just at a moment's notice, and they will make a big difference over time. So, the next time you get ready to walk out the door, before you open the door, I want you to pause and say to yourself, is there anything else that I need to take with me? And see if you get a yes or a no. And if you get a no, just walk right out the door and leave. And if you get a yes, then pause and ask what it is. And hopefully you'll get an answer. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But the yes and no is the important part. Also, the next time you are in line at the drive-thru or the coffee place or whatever, and you're not sure what you want to order, just say number 1 or number 2. You know, the latte or the cappuccino. What do I want? And just ask your inner voice instead of just, you're having deliberate conversations, so you're asking your inner voice, 1 or 2, A or B. If you're at an intersection, left or right. And that way you can start getting feedback from your inner voice, and you're going to start hearing it stronger and stronger. Another thing you can do is try to guess when you're in traffic, is the light going to be green or red when I get to it? And sometimes if you're in traffic like where you go all the time, you're just going to know, but sometimes you're not. And so you can start seeing how often you're right. And then the next step to that is to say, make it green. And it just seems to work after a while. Like you can always get the green lights or always get the red lights. Another thing you can do is when you are going to go to a place that has a big parking lot, like a store or something, before you even leave the house or on your way there, just intend to say, okay, give me the best parking spot, I want the best one. And it happens a lot of the time that somebody will pull out right as I'm getting ready to pull in, or the lot will be full, but there will be that one spot right up front that is like waiting for me. So that happens to me a lot, and that can happen to you too. Doesn't happen every time, but start intending that right when you walk out the door on your way to your destination. Another thing you can do when you're at the store is, and you can do this before you go in a store or while you're walking around a store, you can intend for the line to be clear so you don't have to wait in line when it's time to check out. If you're going through the self-checkout, then you're going to walk right up and start scanning your items. If you're going to the regular checkout, then the cashier will be there waiting for you. And that happens to me all the time, where just as I get there, they're opening up a new lane. And I get to be the first person, or I get to walk right up, or the person before me is just finishing up their payment and then I'm next. Or I don't have to wait at all. And that's awesome because I've gotten really good at that, and I almost never have to wait in line anymore. Another thing that you can do, and this is a game that you can play with cards, is put a deck of cards face down. And then put one of them on the table, like separate, still face down, put your hand over it and say red or black. And then see how often that you're right. And what you're going to find is you're not right. And then what you're going to find is you're right all the time. And then you're going to find a mix. But what happens over time is your percentage of guessing the red and black correctly goes a lot higher. And sometimes you're going to feel like you're really in a zone, and you're going to get, I've gotten up to 80% correct, which is pretty darn good. And that doesn't happen very often. Usually I'm not that good at it, but you can get a much higher percentage, and you can get really good at anticipating if it's red or black. And then if you really want to take it a step further, try to guess the suits. I'm much better at doing the colors than the suits. And with this, a little tip is you want to go with your first impression. Don't think about it. Just go red, black, and then check it. Or just sometimes I just move it over, and then I like black's one pile, red's one pile, and then I check and see how much we're right. Another thing that you can do is when the phone rings, don't look at it. Instead, guess and see who it is, and see if you're right. This was a game that we used to play when I was a kid before anybody had caller ID. You just had the phone on the wall, and it rang and you answered it. Imagine that, huh? And I would always try to guess who it was before I answered, and got it right a good part of the time. And so that's another thing that you can do to develop your intuition. Another thing you can do is if you're listening to the radio, you can try to guess what song is going to come on next. Or you can intend for a song, and usually if I intend for a song to come on, it comes on within the next, I don't know, half an hour or so. So that's another thing that you can do. Another thing you can do, and you can play this game with people, and that's kind of fun. I used to do this with my coworkers and also family members, and I would say, like with coworkers, in my head, I would say, somebody get me a cup of coffee. Wouldn't say it out loud, wouldn't say anything, and I would put the thought out there, and usually within about 20 minutes, somebody would stop by my desk and say, hey, do you want some coffee? I'm going to go get some. And it's just so cool because it works. It works really well. And let's see, what else do I have? You can intend for money to be found, and you will start seeing dimes, quarters, nickels on the street. I always pick those up and say thank you very much, because I know that that's kind of confirmation that my intention's coming true. You can ask for a discount or coupon before you go to buy something, and this has happened to me where I've like been at the grocery store and I'd really like that, but I don't want to pay that much for it, and then right there on the shelf or on the floor nearby or something, there will be a coupon that somebody, I guess, wasn't going to use and left. So those are other ways of doing things. If you're in an argument with somebody, you can intend that you guys make up. You can intend that the other person calls you and wants to make up or something like that. Now, if you have a lot of emotional charge around it still, it's probably not going to be that effective. But if you can come to peace with it and be happy with it, then you can definitely get the other person to come to you just by intending it. Or when you see them the next time, then it'll all kind of break down and melt down and you guys can make up. So those are my tips for practicing developing your intuition. Let me know which ones you try, which ones work for you, which ones don't, and add any of your own tips below. Thanks and have a great day.